I believe it was actually filmed in 2020.
So was that during COVID?
Yeah, everyone was tested before we came, and then I'm pretty sure we all had to wear masks on set and like keep distance.
I'm Keisha from Clapper Magazine, and I'm on YouTube discussing bootlegs, the absolute dupes of the film industry. So I was browsing Amazon Prime with my boyfriend. We wanted to watch a film. You may have heard of it. It's called The Conjuring. So a couple of drinks in the system. We slap it into the search bar. It's loading. It's loading. Oh my goodness. It's £7.99 to own. We're college students, so we're not gonna do that before people say, oh, why don't you just pirate the film, pirate the film. We were drinking. So if we were to take the pirate route, we'd most definitely like end up with some kind of like crazy virus or something. So we just scrolled down out of desperation and oh my gosh, what is that? Is that Conjuring the Genie for free? Indeed it was, so we slapped the play button on this knockoff film with this incredibly terrifying Adobe Photoshop cover art. I've watched some knockoffs. I've watched some wild knockoffs, but is it the most like unique film I've ever watched? Like, it was strange. It was the strangest horror film we had ever watched. The film follows a girl whose father's passed and she'll do anything to get him back. She finds this urban legend website, which of course is where she finds the legend of the Genie plot. Fast forward, she gets her entire group of mates involved with the Djinns' antics and things get bad. Now, quick disclaimer, if you actually want to watch this film or any of the other films I'm going to mention, then I will flag up now, waving my flag, that I will be dealing with huge spoilers. Although in most of these films, I would say the titles are the spoilers. It's not like major spoilers, but I will be showing clips, and some clips you may want to like save for yourself. So back to this Genie. Now there's nothing inherently knockoff about the contents of this film. It's pretty much just the Conjuring title that's dying for like a 72-year-old lady to click on it, buy it, tell her grandson, I've just seen the latest Conjuring film, and for him to respond and be like, there hasn't been another Conjuring film in the past 3 years, grandma. Let's take the main character here, the Genie. Is this freezed face, like, masked creature? Like, obviously, we're supposed to pretend. The film doesn't want you to realize that this is a masked creature. Like, when you come from mainstream and not so much independent cinema, pretending can only get you so far. Like, pretending got me to sit in front of this film. I pretended that this would be similar to the Conjuring films. It's not. Okay, so I can't pretend that the character's scary, but it's a freeze-faced man in a mask. He's covered like in this goo, and he is terrorizing the group of British kids, adults, teens. I mean, I don't know what age they are, but it would be pretty important to know considering the Genie knocks one of them up with its pseudo baby. Yeah, I haven't got to the key plot point of the Genie tricking the kids into wishing for curses instead of just giving them whatever they asked for, because the be careful what you wish for trope just hasn't been shagged so far up the ass by the film industry already. But do you know what? I'll take my step back and I'll be reserved in my opinion, in the sense that for independent cinema to get the attention it needs to tackle these big mainstream conventions and tropes of the genres it's dealing with. So do you know what? I push back my chair for that. Aside from the teen pregnancy, because the girl wishes she was pregnant by her situationship, I'm not exactly sure what the relationship is there. I rewatched this film to get the clips and to write this video, but I still can't decipher the relationship between the girl and this guy that she so desperately wants to be pregnant by. Keeping in mind they're in college, high school, whatever it is. I'm assuming it's college because they're not wearing uniform, and in England you don't wear uniform if you go into college. The other girl turns into like this doll paper mache girl because she wishes to look pretty. And one major flaw I would say with that is that it would make a lot more of a deeper kind of plot point if the actor wasn't actually like attractive. So like if she like, let's say, didn't fit in with the social ideals, like she got a bit of bullying going on, you get a bit of a storyline going there. Anyway, My favourite one is this bloke. He wants to be like hench buff because he's getting bullied and he feels weak. And the genie's like, okay, I'll give you what you want because none of these guys have an inch of skepticism towards this strange looking genie monster thing that just appears. And the genie turns him into a furry and he ends up killing his dad. Well, what happens to the girl who caused for all this to happen? I hear you begging. Well, she gets her dad back, but she has to give him back to reverse the curse to save all of her mates, which I'll give them props for because they did make it out to seem like this wasn't an easy decision for her instead of taking this like selfless hero protagonist route that we do see in a lot of independent cinema to kind of keep the screenplay short. After watching this film, I fell down a whirlpool of more and more knockoffs on Amazon Prime. I started seeing things, not delusions, but like noticing things like the same actors in similar sets, till I figured there's multiple production companies all making bootlegs and pushing it to this ITN distribution company that we saw at the start. And I took note of this ITN thing because I was like, oh, I think I've seen that before. I definitely have seen that before. This ITN distribution is pushing out all of these sort of bootleg-ish independent films, and I suppose they use the same ensemble cast for most things, and I guess that's why we see the same actors banging about. I did my research, okay, I found the official website, and I mean, it's just as independent looking as the films. It's likely they're like using the funding they have to hire the actors, screenwriters, to order in the props, the special effects. And I mean, this production company's budget is considerably lower than any of the real life film counterparts they try and rip off. You can see it in the film special effects. I mean, of the plastic genie that, I will reiterate, does not move in a horror film where you're supposed to be like horrified. It's literally like a mask off Amazon. And acting performances, I mean, we've got a range of acting skills on this film, which I mean, some of the people on the set are giving, you know, I've got a degree in this, I was born for this, and some of them are just giving GCSE drama.
Fuck you, alright?
And I mean, that's no hate to any of the actors. I mean, please don't send hate to any of the actors, but they have a shit ton of dupe movies like this. They have one called Don't Speak, being a rip-off of Don't Breathe. They have one called Jack Frost. I mean, that is literally a play on the character Jack Frost. And Jurassic Island, being a rip-off of the Jurassic Park series. And most, if not all of these films have an alternative title that's completely like unrelated to the knockoff film it's copying. I mean, let's go back to Conjuring the Genie. Conjuring the Genie wasn't even called Conjuring the Genie. It was called Evil Genie at a point. Before that, it was called Devil de Jinn. And I'm highly doubting that these were some sort of production titles, because I know there'll be people saying, oh, don't you know what a production title is? And it's not a Marvel film. Just like everybody does after watching a film, I went to Google the characters to see what they were up to now, and a lot of them are still working within this like production. I don't know, there's multiple production companies, but a lot of them are still working with these like same people. In a lot of films you'll see them reappearing under different names, and they genuinely seem to be sweet people in real life. I thought I'd look at the antagonist. I mean, how could we forget his performance? It's not like anyone came from these films with damaged careers, or that they should have, because like I said, it's a hustle. So obviously in doing this, I liked an actor's post, then I liked another post, then I commented on one of their posts, and then I bagged an interview. Obviously, this is about Conjuring the Genie. That was filmed, was that filmed 2021 or 2022?
I believe it was actually filmed in 2020.
2020, so was that during COVID?
Yeah, everyone was tested before we came, and then I'm pretty sure we all had to wear masks on set and like keep distances from people that we weren't working with,
Right.
etc.
So as for like the casting process, is that like, are you through an agency, or is this like independent? Do they do like call outs and then people come on, or how does that work?
I mean, at the time I wasn't with an agency. I think some of the other actors got in through an agency. I had personally worked with the producer and director before, so he asked if I could come back on set, and I think that they're also very into casting newer actors, and I was very new in the industry at the time as well, still am, and they like have a thing about reaching out on like smaller sites and such to find like newer actors and new faces.
Oh, that's right. Okay, that's cool. The Genie character, obviously that's the main show, that's the showstopper there. As for the character, I noticed when I rewatched it, because I've watched it about like 3 times now, obviously for the writing the YouTube, I noticed that there's some kind of like a goo on his face. Do you know what that substance is? Like what was that?
I don't know what the actual substance is, but I do remember them putting something on him. There was some kind of liquidy, something that the makeup artist did. I have no clue what it was, but it was a bit gross. But yeah.
Yeah, okay, because that was like, when I think of that film, that's the only thing I remember, like just the goo thing, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, that is so like horrifying. When you're on set, like all of the cast, like how serious like is it on set? Is it quite playful, like lighthearted, or is it like, you know, tense?
I think it kind of depended on what day I was there.
Yeah.
Because there was like a day when we were in Norwich, and most of us are like based down south as well, so we all traveled a while together. And then I think it gets to like the evening and everyone wants to go home, and like we still have like however many shots to do, and then everyone's like, okay, let's just like get this done, da, 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 da. But for the most part, the cast of Conjuring the Genie and the crew as well, like they were one of my favorite casts I've worked with. They were really nice and they were really fun to work with.
Was there anything on set that like maybe, especially since like it was shot in COVID time, was there any processes that like they cut corners with, or like things that they initially had planned out to happen that didn't happen?
The Jinn. I'm pretty sure this is what happened, but I'm not 100. This was ages ago. The Jinn, the actor, he's shorter than me.
Oh, okay.
So I think we had to put him on something. Like when I was recording, either that or I had to like crouch down a bit.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I think we did everything as they intended.
That's pretty impressive considering they were shot through COVID. Obviously, I've looked into like the company. It seems like they do like a lot of horror films. Do you think like there's like a particular link that there might be with independent or smaller companies and making horror films specifically?
I know specifically Jagged Edge Productions. I know that the guy who owns it is like very, very passionate about making horror, because I know that recently he had a film, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey.
Oh, yeah.
And that was really popular. And now that that's really popular, he's still making horror because he loves it and he enjoys it so much. Though I do think a lot of small companies tend to do horror. I don't think it's necessarily easier, but I think it's really fun to make. Because it's so enjoyable to do, I feel like it feels like an easier path.
Right, yeah. Okay. I feel like maybe it's better to like prioritize the actors on set, they're having fun and they're enjoying it and all. And I feel like horror is probably a really nice way to do that. When you saw the film, was that like how you expected it would come out, or was it better? Like how did you like think it would look?
There were things that were better and there were things that I was not disappointed with, but I wished were different. For example, like the Jinn, I thought the Jinn looked so much better on camera than I expected him to. Because I think when working on set with like monsters and you see the costume, it's a bit like, oh, this looks a bit funny, but it looks really cool. I wish the doll face looks a bit cooler. I loved it when like my eyes blacked out and stuff. I was like, oh, that's really sick. But I think overall they exceeded my expectations.
I've looked and it seems like they might be like a sequel, like Conjuring the Genie 2.
Yeah. Are
you guys like involved with that like whatsoever? Did you see that one? Or
I've not seen it or heard about it because my character died, but
yeah,
I know that the cast who are not dead in the movie, I know they will probably be returning.
Are you still working with that company, or like the directors, producers? Are you still working with them, or is that no longer something you're doing?
At the moment, I'm focused on my university studies,
right?
Because I'm studying and in my final year. I did work with them, I believe, last year. It was last academic year. I don't know if it was physically last year, but I worked with them on Bloody Mary too. I know that they're very good at like recasting actors they worked with before, so hopefully in the future I'll work with them again. But again, I'm working on my studies right now.
What are you studying actually?
Oh, I'm an acting student.
So you obviously
Yeah.
have like the real experience as well.
Yeah, it's really cool to be able to transfer because we produce films as well as act in them.
Right.
So it's like, oh, I got to see everything behind the scenes when I was working with Scott Jeffries, the producer.
Yeah.
And I was like, and he's always really open to like teaching you about things. Like I've asked him questions before on set and I've been like, wow, that's so interesting, and then applied it to my studies.
That's really nice to know that they're so helpful and stuff. Thank you so much for getting back to us for this. And
No, of course.
we do really appreciate it. That was really helpful. Do you want to just like wave a bye to like everyone?
Oh yeah, of course. Bye.